Hi friends, I'm in the kitchen today cooking Italian wedding soup. I'm going to start with the meatballs first. You're going to want to get a package of ground turkey breast. This is a 1.25 pound package. That is how all of them are packaged, by that amount. To our ground turkey breast, we're going to go ahead and add a half a cup of ground up grissini sticks. So that's about 8 sticks. The brand of grissini I'm using today is the Safeway brand of toasted grissini. And then I'm going to add some powdered egg whites, 2 tablespoons. And then to that I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of Italian seasoning. This is just a Costco McCormick Italian seasoning. If you don't have it, let's see what's in it. Marjoram, thyme, rosemary, savory, sage, oregano, and basil. So I'm going to do 1 tablespoon of that, and I'm going to do 1 teaspoon of Emeril's essence. This is pretty much available in every grocery store now, and in this is salt, paprika, black pepper, granulated garlic, spices, and onion powder. And then last I'm going to add crushed red pepper. And that's kind of to taste. I like my food really spicy. I added a half a teaspoon. If you don't like your food that way, you should probably reduce the crushed red pepper flakes to about 1/4 of a teaspoon, or just eliminate them completely. I feel that they add quite a bit of flavor to the soup, so that's why I use them. So we'll add those spices. I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of minced garlic. That's about 4 cloves of garlic. And if you don't have a garlic press, you can always just chop it up really fine and put that in. And then to give it a little bit of liquid and a little more salt, I'm going to go ahead and add a tablespoon of the Bragg's liquid Aminos. And then you want to combine the ingredients together. When I mixed the meatballs, I used my hands. You can use a spoon, but I just find it's easier to just manipulate the meat with the other ingredients by just using your hands and forming the meatballs. I put them on a baking sheet lined with parchment. If you have the parchment, go ahead and use it. It makes cleanup easier. I used this is a 2 tablespoon measurement. I think I got this in the aisle that holds the coffee at the grocery store. We use this all the time for dressings and all sorts of things. So this is a handy thing to have. If you don't, go ahead and just scoop out, gauge what 2 tablespoons looks like in a meatball, and then form the meatballs and put them on a tray. The soup makes 4 servings, and so each serving gets 5 meatballs, and the meatballs are 2 tablespoons a piece, and they come to about 5.5 ounces when you weigh them out. And so remember, there's other items added to the meatball that you are entitled to have on the HCG protocol in P2. And so you're just a little bit over what your normal intake would be, but you have to factor in the combined ingredients of the seasonings, the grissini, the Bragg's, and the egg white powder, and then just take that into account. If you only want 4 meatballs and that's all you're comfortable doing, that's fine. So we're going to go ahead and stick this in a 350-degree oven and cook them until the center of the meatball reaches 165 degrees. And there's no need for a lip on your baking tray if you just have a flat cookie sheet. There's no grease from these, so whatever you have available is fine. Okay, here are our meatballs out of the oven. They don't really look that much different. As you can see, there really is very little grease whatsoever. What you're seeing is actually a shadow. And the bottom does get a little bit of a crust to it. So if you like the crust, you could flip your meatballs halfway through doesn't matter to me. So I just went ahead and cooked my meatballs for 20 minutes. Now remember, if you vary the size of what the meatball is, you would either cook it more or less. So please take that into account. One note about the meatballs that I wanted to bring up is that due to the lack of fat in the meatball itself, they are very firm after they've been cooked and difficult to break apart with a spoon when you're eating the soup. And so you may want to slice the meatballs in half after they've been cooked, after they cool down enough to handle, and then of course before adding them to the soup in that final step. I don't make them smaller because I believe they dry out when you're cooking them. And then on top of that, it's just quicker to do the 2 tablespoon scoops rather than reduce the size of that and hand roll every meatball. If you were going to serve this for company or a special occasion, I would most definitely reduce the size of the meatball, probably even half or even thirds. And then of course you need to adjust the amount of meat that you would be allowed to have in your bowl if you are strictly following the P2 protocol. So you'd have to recalculate the nutritional facts from there. Now we'll move on to the soup part of our recipe. And so here I have a ½ cup of chopped onion and a tablespoon of minced garlic and a tablespoon of coconut oil. The garlic and onion have been sauteing for about 3 minutes, and as you can see, they are wilted but not burnt. We're not browning the onions, we're just trying to wilt them. At this point, we're going to add our spinach. I'm going to use 4 cups of fresh spinach. You want to measure your spinach out before you start chopping it, so that you have an accurate measurement. After chopping my 4 cups of spinach, I am now down to 1 cup of packed spinach. You could probably use frozen if that's what you had available. So 1 cup of frozen spinach. You would just want to make sure that all of the moisture was squeezed out. So you need to defrost it and then make sure to press the moisture out before measuring it. And let it also cook until it wilts, which is about another 2 minutes or so, stirring the ingredients to combine them. And I'm cooking at about a medium heat. Remember that when you cook with coconut oil, things cook at a higher heat. And so I went ahead and wilted my spinach for about 1 minute, and then I'm going to add my spices to that. I cooked at probably medium-low. At this point, we'll add our spices. I'm going to use a teaspoon of basil, a teaspoon of oregano, and a teaspoon of thyme. You can use whatever combination of spices that you prefer. And then we'll add our broth. We're going to use 6 cups of chicken broth. And then heat that until it comes to a boil. Once the broth comes to a boil, you'll want to gently place your meatballs in the pot and then allow the soup to come to a boil again, and then boil it for about 2 minutes to make sure that the meatballs are heated through. And then salt and pepper to taste. So this is what I'm going to go ahead and have for lunch today. Italian wedding soup. Each serving has 4 to 5 meatballs and about 1.5 cups of broth. Okay, have a great day. Hope you enjoy.